5 years, I hope to write a sequel to the book to say that 70, 80, 90% of our students are reading above grade level, and this is how it was done. These are the steps that you need to do to take in order for your child to be on a better reading trajectory. That's what I hope to do in 5 years. Where I hope to be in 5 years.
So we're gonna do a last round of questions, and then we normally what we do we reflect about what we learned in the podcast today. If you wish to participate, please be so because we would love to know what you thought of this environment. I will start the question, and then I'll let battle. I let Kevin and Autumn battle the last two, but in literacy, you see there's proficiency of words when you read a book, but then when you hear our music, you see the reflection of those that really don't know how to read so well. And there's a lot of slangs, a lot of curses, a lot of misinterpretation, or just to rhyme with no sense.
Mhm.
It, you can see how the impact of education on one or another
Mhm.
and the choices each person makes, because also in our adulthood
Mhm.
we can make a choice to educate ourselves too, and there's a responsibility with that.
Mhm.
Where do you see, for example, music is so influential
Mhm.
because it stimulates in many ways the brain, but why do you see, where do you see that people are so influenced by music that are degrading versus a good book that is educating?
Mhm. So I'm going to say that music is a universal tool, and that we can learn from music. And I think that everybody has their representation of what music should be, right? So I don't want to put any dampers on that, right? So whether it's rap, hip hop, whatever, right? What we can learn is take the lyrics. If you have students, and I say this all the time, let's learn to read through music, right? You can do that. What do you think this artist is trying to say? How can you, how would you interpret what this person is saying, right? Um, what would you say differently? Or if you had the chance to talk to this artist, what would you say? How did it make you feel? Good, bad, or indifferent? What would you want to say? What do you think is going on in the head of this artist? What would you ask them? Turn it around and let them be a reporter, a journalist, someone to go out and uncover a story, right? So again, if we're trying to get students to read and we're trying to get them to understand the power that they have, just flip it, right? Just flip it. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that's in music that one side or the other might agree with or not agree with. Um, but again, that's a form of expression. And I think they have a right to express themselves, right? The way they want to express themselves. And I have a right to listen or not to listen. But when it comes to our students, they're going to listen. They're
Mm.
going to listen. So what we do is we teach them how to listen. We teach them to ask questions. We teach them to wonder. We
Mhm.
teach children to try to get into the head of the person who is creating. What would you do differently? How do you want to create? Do you want to build? Do you want to tear down? What does that look like for you? So music has different genres as far as music is concerned, and I think that it could be used as a powerful conversational tool, to discuss current events, to discuss what's going on in the world that this artist had to create this,
Mhm.
right? What do you think? What's happening? Let's look at the time frame. If this happened in the 80s and this happened in the 90s, let's look at historically what was happening during that time and how the person chose to express himself or herself. What do you see the connection is today?
Mm.
So I would frame it like that,
Yeah.
as opposed to saying to a child, don't listen to that. Because when you say don't, they're going to. but give them the tools that they need to be able to dissect and ask questions and wonder.
Mm. I love your answer because, like, for example, N.W.A,
Mhm,
which is they're considered classic now.
mhm,
They
mhm,
were going through a lot of social issues back
mhm,
in LA.
mhm,
And if you really listen to the content, although there's some vulgarity,
mhm, mhm,
again, they're telling their story.
mhm,
And if you really listen to the lens of how they feel, because they sing what they feel
mhm,
and
mhm,
what they are looking every day at how they're being targeted by the police, et cetera, and what they have to do to survive in a very dangerous environment. It's true what you're saying. You can become an investigator and embrace, like, okay, what was going on? Okay, cool. The gangs were having this war. It's almost like reading, I don't know, something medieval, right? Medieval times, they were cutting each other's throat
mhm,
because of kingdoms,
mhm,
and et cetera, et cetera. I love the way you put this together because I'm not going to lie. I listen to rap and hip
mhm,
hop.
mhm,
All right. Now it's my job to, see how that is going to contribute or not going to contribute to what I want to learn or not. So I love how you really put that together
mhm,
because there's a stigma that if don't listen because you will get so influenced about it. But at the end of the day, we all know what good and bad is.
mhm. You teach it.
Teach it exactly. Teach it. This was this reaction because of this, but this is ask the questions like you said. Be curious. Is it morally correct? No, but this is how they interacted in that event.
Um, I don't think that it was so much of a change. We've always had a reading problem. There's always been a reading problem, right? COVID did not unveil this great big reading problem. COVID unveiled the access and accessibility, right? That woke us up. But we've always had a problem in this country with reading, going back to anti literacy laws. So I just want to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that um, our brains were not wired to read. We have to teach it to read, right? It does this great thing, right? It it rewires itself, right? To form pathways for reading to develop. A lot of people don't understand that. It's very different than language. Language, you can put a child in a room full of people who are speaking and they will speak. You don't have to teach them how to talk, right? That is not going to happen for reading. You cannot sit someone in a room full of people who are reading, whether they're reading out loud or silently. It's not going to happen. You have to teach it to read, right? That starts very early. What we think is reading starts in kindergarten, and then we build these habits in kindergarten. And if we think that, we're 5 years already behind, right? Reading starts really at the moment of conception. How? Well, all of the stuff that mom eats, all of the environmental pressures and stress impacts the developing brain. Reading is all about the brain. The brain is the main character, right? And so if we understand that, then we have a point of reference. And so how do we build stamina, right? Because in order to learn to read and read well, you have to build stamina. I'm like, this is a race, right? Not for the quick athlete, but it's endurance.
Mm.
And it took us years, decades to get here. My book has only been out since August. It's not going to take months for us to get out. And so people have to come to the point where I came to and say, okay, I reflected. Now I see, and now I'm going to do better. When you know better, you do better.